One protester was killed and 100 were wounded Friday during a day of rage in the West Bank, Gaza, and in East Jerusalem, as Palestinians railed against President Trump's recognition of the ancient city as Israel's capital, according to reports. The dead man was felled by Israeli fire in Gaza, while others were injured from tear gas inhalation and rubber bullets, Palestinian officials say. As Friday prayers ended at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, worshippers made their way toward the Old City and chanted, "Jerusalem is ours, Jerusalem is our capital, and we don't need empty words, we need stones and Kalashnikovs." Scuffles broke out between protesters and Israeli troops in Hebron, Bethlehem, Kalkalia, Ramallah, and elsewhere as protesters burned Israeli and American flags, and stomped on Trump posters in displays of fury. Trump's seismic policy shift on Jerusalem has infuriated Arabs and Muslims who view it as an expression of blatant pro-Israel bias in one of the region's most explosive religious and political disputes. Meanwhile, the diplomatic fallout from the controversial declaration also continued, with suggestions that Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas may refuse to meet Vice President Mike Pence on his visit to the region later this month. The UN Security Council plans to meet Friday in an emergency session to discuss Trump's move, which has drawn near universal condemnation, including from UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Palestinian Islamist movement Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, was calling for a day of rage after its leader Ismail Haniyeh said a new intifada, or uprising, should be launched over Trump's declaration. In Beirut, thousands of Lebanese and Palestinians marched in the streets in protest. More than 5,000 people also took to the streets near the Palestinian refugee camp of Chatila after Friday prayers and marched toward a cemetery where hundreds of Palestinians, including commanders, are buried. In Turkey, more than 3,000 people gathered outside a mosque in Istanbul's conservative Fatih district after prayers and were marching toward a park, waving Palestinian flags and chanting slogans protesting the US and Israel. And in Egypt, hundreds gathered to protest at the famous Al-Azhar Mosque in Cairo amid tightened security. The protesters chanted, "Down with Israel," and "We sacrifice our blood and souls for Palestine." Trump's break with decades-long U.S. policy on Jerusalem's status fueled anger across the Middle East. Arab and Muslim leaders said the move would disrupt the peace process and could ignite violent protests in the already volatile region. With post wires.